record it and just say, first of all, thank you to Joel for bringing me on this webinar this morning. And for those of you that have not met before, thank you for coming and spending your valuable time with me. It's an honor and a privilege to share with the group this morning and to share with you guys on behalf of Joel. So thank you, Joel, and thank you guys for giving me somebody to talk to and to present today. And I'm just going to focus on how top producing agents are working with buyers and how they're getting their commitment every time. And first and foremost, I'm just going to let you know that, give you a little bit of a background on who I am and who I am and what I do in my background. So I've been licensed and been in the real estate business now since 1992. So I'm almost 25 years. I've been in your business and in your world. I was a licensed realtor, sold in Penticton for 8 years, and then sold in Kelowna for another number of years, and now a broker owner manager of one of the largest firms in Canada. My background: I wrote a book, an author. The book was called The Lazy Realtor. You can buy it online for under $10 on Amazon. It's available there. Just a compilation of all of the things I learned in the past so many years in my experience as real estate agent, and the things I would have done differently and the lessons I learned. And it's available for you guys to take a look at. And then I also am a blogger, and every Wednesday I post on a blog called Agents Boost. So every Wednesday, today was blog post day, and I write something on that blog. It's read by about 12,000 agents around the world in 102 different countries. And it's just my way of giving back. The blog is full of content-rich training and coaching and information, free for you guys to look at it. And there's resources and years worth of content on there. So check out the book if you get a chance, and check out my blog. And it's there for you guys as a resource, and to go through and to use it to improve yourselves personally and professionally. How I got into sales and how I got into real estate, true story, is that I was going to be studying music. My mom's a musician and a teacher. My brother's a teacher. My sister's a teacher. And I was following a path to become a high school band teacher living in Vancouver. Saw an ad one day, summer of 92, 91, that I could make as a university student a couple grand in the summer. Applied for the job at a high-rise down in West Georgia Street and got hired. And I ended up getting hired by a company by the name of Colliers. And so the first week of my job, I was all excited because I got the job, but little did I know they hired pretty much everybody that applied for the job, not just myself. And so I ended up getting a job, and I got introduced to learning a canned presentation, a 3-hour canned presentation, Monday to Friday. We studied all day long. So we role played, we dialogued, we recorded ourselves and played it back. True story on the old 8-track or tape recorder Walkman, if those of you remember Walkman days and that. I'm not that old. It wasn't 8-track days. And so what we had to do is memorize a canned presentation on selling encyclopedias. So I thought, okay, well, I'll sell encyclopedias in Vancouver. Well, no, that was just too easy. We ended up getting packed into a car, 4 of us, with a field leader, and ended up being dragged out to Saskatchewan. So the summer of 92, I was dragged out to Saskatchewan selling encyclopedias for $1,999.99. And literally, we would knock on 200-300 doors a night. And I was one of the few people that lasted the whole entire summer. From the beginning to the end, and I made a few $1,000 and did really well at it. And I remember calling my dad from a phone booth in Kinnersey, Saskatchewan. This phone booth is covered in locusts, and squeezing my way inside the phone booth. And I call my dad, and I'm like, hey, I found exactly what I want to do, and I love sales, and I want to get in the business. And so I'm thinking about moving home, and I'm going to get my real estate license and go into real estate and not become a high school band teacher. And of course, there's dead silence on the other line, and my dad's like, nope. Finish your degree, become a high school band teacher. That's the right thing to do, blah, blah, blah. And I think that he was at the time just getting in real estate himself. And so I said to my dad, well, you got one of two choices. We can either compete against each other or work together. What's it going to be? So long story short, Dad and I partnered up. We sold together for 8 years and built a career. He mentored me and learned a lot and did well. And I'm to this day grateful for him and being able to have that opportunity. I'm also grateful for the lessons I learned about selling encyclopedias door to door. If you can sell encyclopedias, you can sell anything, trust me. And the reality was he learned about a lot about about objections and just rejection and things like that, and learned a lot about myself now that I'm just one more no closer to a yes, and just the whole mindset, and that they weren't rejecting me as a person, they were just rejecting the books and the cost of the books or whatever, and just lots of great lessons I learned from that experience selling encyclopedias from door to door and that. So that's how I fell in love with sales. That's how I became in this business and in this industry. So today, I want to just share with you guys just how to handle and how to deal with buyers and what to do with buyers now, and how to shift your way in the marketplace and be better and more efficient at it. And one of the things I learned was early in my career, I was able to get lots of listings. So I was very strong from the seller standpoint and the listing standpoint. And that's important, don't get me wrong. But moving to Kelowna and building an industry where I didn't know that many people and didn't grow up in there, I needed to find my way of how I was just as efficient and proficient as a buyer's agent as I was as a listing agent. And so I had to build a system and build something that would make me more effective. And so I'm going to ask you, how many of you would like to be able to convert 80-90% of your buyers in under 8 physical showings of homes and get them to write offers? Does that interest you guys? Everybody's good with that? So this is what I was able to accomplish, was 8, 9, 10 out of 10 buyers in that. I was able to literally convert them and sell them and convert them under 6, 8 physical showings and write them up and put them into a deal in that. And hopefully some of the nuggets you're going to get from today are some of the secrets and how I did that and how I coach other top producing agents to do it as well, okay? So with that said, let's just take a step back and let's just talk about the marketplace and talk about the state of the market. So I'm sure all of us are in similar market conditions where low inventory levels, you would agree. Buyers can't find what they're looking for. Sellers are greedy and they want too much for their properties because their friends got this much and that, or relatives got this much. We've got buyers probably resisting at certain price levels right now. A lot of buyers wondering if it's too high and is the bubble going to burst. Buyers that are lack of loyalty and saying like, I don't care who finds it first, that's who I'm going to buy from. So we struggle with the loyalty side of things, because with no inventory and no difficulty and finding difficult to look for it, buyer really doesn't care who we buy from, just whoever finds it first. So that's a challenge in the marketplace. Where we have this mindset where the buyer thinks they'll get a better deal buying direct from the listing agent. I don't know if you're in a marketplace, but multiple offers, and how do we deal with multiples and how do we win at multiples? Also, how do we deal with things selling too quickly for a buyer? So say, for example, a first-time home buyer's like freaked right out because things are moving so quickly and I'm in a multiple and this isn't what I signed up for and how much am I paying for this property? So it creates a lot of fear and anxiety for buyers in that. And then also, there's no time to make a decision in the marketplace. Would everybody agree that kind of sums up the state of the market and how we're at right now in your marketplaces? Good analogy? Okay. So then that's the current state of the market, and that's the challenges that we're facing. So here are buyers' issues with agents, okay? So the common issues or the common feedback we get from buyers to say about you as a buyer's agent is the buyer's agents, they just don't listen, okay? So I always remind my sales people, it's not by chance that God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth. So you can understand that we're supposed to be listening, double listening, and half the talking. And today you can hear that I'm always a person that speaks quickly and fast, and I'm known for a guy that can talk a dog off a meat wagon. But the reality is when I was in the real estate side of things, I was a better listener and listened more and took notes and paid attention more than speaking. And Carnegie says the world's greatest conversationalist is somebody who says little or nothing. And so that's where that whole listening comes in and that whole component comes in. The next thing they complain about us is that we don't understand their needs and their wants. And so that comes from asking questions, that comes from determining, and I'll give you one trick right off the bat is ask yourselves this, you guys. Do you know all your buyers and all your sellers, do you know what their hot button is? What they're running from or what they're running to? Does that make sense? So their needs and wants are their pain and what they're avoiding that pain, or their desire of pleasure. The only thing that moves a buyer or seller's emotional meter is pain, avoidance of pain, or pleasure and the desire of pleasure. So think about that and write that question down. Do I know every buyer's pain button, hot button, pleasure button? Do I know every seller's buyer's a seller's hot button and pain button or pleasure button. And it's so critical to your success of understanding those needs and wants. It's not about buying a house or selling a house. It's about avoidance of pain or helping them get to that, past that, or getting them into that pleasure, if that makes sense. Okay. The next one is they say that we wait and we watch the hot sheet. So I don't know how many veteran agents we have in this. So there's a lot of veteran agents that are struggling. So the old way of us doing real estate was we watch the hot sheet every morning. We see what comes on listings, and guess what? There's nothing coming on the hot sheet. There's nothing coming on the sheets in the mornings and that. And so the buyer is saying, you know what? I'm not going to sit around for an agent that waits. I'm going to go look for an agent that creates and goes and finds it. So they're frustrated because you're moving too fast, too slow for them, and you're sitting around waiting for real estate instead of going and finding it and creating real estate. So if that resonates with you, I would encourage you in that they're looking for a buyer's agent that is going to create it and find it for them. And they don't care who that is, and that's one of your things that you're gonna have to consider there is that stop the hot sheets. The 80s called, they want their hot sheets back. There's no more listings coming in the hot sheets for the next little while, okay, you guys? Next thing they complain about is how, you guys get them to buy what you think they should buy. And I've been guilty of that. A lot of times I think, oh, they're gonna love this listing. And when I show them the listing and the buyer's like, I don't see what Wade even likes in this place, and this doesn't make any sense. This is not what we buy. And so I actually set myself up for a bit of failure. And I'm not sure if any of you have experienced that same thing where I think they're going to buy something and then they end up buying something completely different that I didn't see them buying it and coming in. So another lesson for you guys is that remind yourself that it's not your home, it's not your money, and it's not your decision. Right? And to remind yourself of that when you're dealing with agents or dealing with buyers is that they want to buy what they want to buy. They don't want to buy what you think they should buy. Okay. An important lesson there in that. And I've got caught a number of times where I have thought that they should buy something and they end up not buying it. Okay. And I'm sure other people in the call have experienced that as well. So the issues in that, the truths about this is that the biggest thing for us, I'll tell you the secret with most top producers, guys, is that every single top producer always has a process and a system, okay? So how many of you in this call, maybe just put in the chat box, have a consistent process and system for every buyer that you're dealing with? Every single time, and you can do it like it's clockwork and you can do it in your sleep. How many would just put in the chat box there, how many of you have a process or a system? Right? So nobody has one, so that's perfect. I'm glad we're here on the call. Joel, you just saved everybody. Thanks for having this webinar, pal. All right, so what are the benefits of a system? What are the benefits of a process? So it's consistent. They look like you know what you're doing. It sets you apart from your competition. It shows that you're a strong agent, not a weaker agent. It gets them under control, and it shows that you have control and not them have control, if that makes sense. So there's so many processes and so many systems have so many benefits to it. So the step one in the process I'm going to share with you guys that top producers have is always the initial meet and greet. So the question is, and the biggest question is, do you guys meet them at a listing and get a call and meet them on site and meet them at a listing and then try and capture them? Do you meet them and bring them into the office? Or are you meeting them at a neutral place like a coffee shop or a restaurant at the outset? And there's no right or wrong answer. I think the biggest thing, and we learned this from a legend called Floyd Wickman, is that if you can bring them, if you can CITO them, write this down, CITO. If you can get them to come into the office, you know that you have a qualified buyer versus a tire kicker or looky-loo in that. So that's the biggest litmus test is that if they come in the office, then you know that they're serious and they're qualified. But you have other options of meeting them at a listing, meeting them out at neutral ground and that. If you're bringing them in the office, one of my biggest tips is I always prepare the receptionist, and I'm sure you all have a receptionist. I let them know that they're coming, let them know who they are, they greet them by name, and they offer them coffee and water, and you create an experience, right? And let them know that Wade or Vince or Linda or Joel is looking forward to meeting with you today, and thank you very much for coming in. And use your receptionist as that benefit of the front end of the line of the first impressions, if that makes sense. So I'm always prepping my receptionist to make them feel like they're royalty when they're coming to the office, and that's a great thing to do. People always remember how you make them feel. They don't always remember what you do for them, if that makes sense. So that's the initial meet and greet, and there's a little tip for you there on using the receptionist to leverage your experience with them when they arrive, okay? Now, the critical first 2 minutes. You got to connect. You got to get in control. Somebody needs to determine who's in control, and that's you that decides who's in control and how to connect with them, okay? So the goal is to take your time and not to rush this process. At the end of the day, people are going to choose to work with people that like them, that they like, and that they trust, okay? So there's all types of different things you can ask and build rapport in that, but one of the best things is the acronym FORD. And you'll see in the slide here, FORD. So a technique I learned from a good mentor of mine that said, if you're not the king of small talk, if you don't know how to get people to like you, if you don't know what to say and it's awkward and uncomfortable, use the FORD technique. So F stands for family, O stands for occupation, R stands for recreation, and D stands for dreams. And so how I go through the process is I have pre-planned questions about their family. So where are you originally from? Where do you grow up? And go through that. Then I say, tell me what you've done for a living and what you like about that, and talk about their occupation. What do you do for fun, and what do you do for your pastimes and recreation? And then obviously it's kind of inappropriate or awkward to ask somebody what they're dreaming about, and I've just met them. So I'll say, if you had a bucket list and all the time and money in the world, what are some of the things on your bucket list, okay? Do not rush this process. Get them to like you, get them to trust you, and just set that connection and that goal. And that's critical in the first 2 minutes, is that using that FORD technique, okay? Now, you take people out on a safe island. So I know everybody here can just shoot in the chat box here. How many people like to know what we're going to talk about and what's going to happen before we talk about it and before it happens to you? How many people like to know what's going to happen, okay? And what's going to play out, what we're going to do before we do it. So this technique of safe island, I'll send the script to Joel here, and I'm not going to go into detail, basically lays out what we're going to do, what's going to happen, and what's going to play out in our time together. And then literally I'll see buyers, like, at first they're really nervous and and you can feel the tension in the room, or you can feel it in the closing room or in the space and that. And when I tell them what we're going to talk about and I tell them what's going to happen and tell them what they're going to do, you literally see them just go, and then just the air just becomes lighter and the whole setting and that, and it just makes people that. So take them out on a safe island and get them to just relax and get them to feel more comfortable. It's an incredible, powerful way. And there's a script and dialogue that I'll send you in the slides here that you can use that just really deflates that and gets them to feel comfortable. And that's the safe island technique there, okay? All right, so what we're going to do and what we're going to do and how we do it. Now, the next one is the buyer interview process, okay? So I always have a file made up for my buyers with their name on it so that they feel more important. You open up the file because it makes you look more professional. You ask permission to ask them a few questions. And how many of you knew that there's an actual sequence for asking questions? Did anybody know that there's an actual sequence and a process for question asking and asking people questions, okay? So the question sequence is this, okay? Sequence number one, you always start with rapport questions, and that's the FORD technique, is the rapport questions are the first sequence, okay? Then the second sequence are foundational questions. The next questions are diagnostic questions. And then the fourth set of questions in the sequence is solution questions, okay? Now, for interest of time, I've shared with you the FORD technique. And then in the slide here, these are your foundational questions. There's 5 key foundational questions. Where are you living? Where do you own a current home? About how many homes have you owned in your lifetime? When did you start looking? What'd you do next? They're all foundational questions. And I'll send you these slides and Joel will forward them on to you, okay? That's the first sequence of questions. Now, having pre-planned questions. I use this analogy all the time. When I'm on a flight and the Air Canada stewardess is reading her little cue cards, laminated cue cards about what to do, I'm okay with her reading from the cue cards because I know we're going to get on when we're going to take off faster. When you use cue cards and things like that, people don't notice you're reading from cue cards or having pre-planned questions, so use them. And they feel that, oh, this person knows what they're doing. They sound like they know what they're doing. They look more professional, and they like the process and they like the foundation, okay? Moving from the foundation questions, these are diagnostic questions. These are who, what, where, when, why, and how questions, okay? So you have your foundational questions, you have your FORD questions, your rapport questions, your diagnostic or your who, what, where, when, and why, and then your closing questions. So some of your solution closing questions would be, would it be offended, or would you be offended if I did this or did that? These are really good dialogue questions, and these are game changer questions that get you responses that you're looking for. Do you have anyone sending you the good deals? So when I ask a buyer if they're sending them the good deals, they're thinking if they're working with someone, well, I wonder if I'm getting the good deals. I wonder if I'm being sent the good deal. So that's another good question for buyers in that. And then next question would be, what would you need to happen, or what would need to happen for you to do this blank? Another great question. It's funny that you're contacting me about this listing or about this process or about this question. And so you can relate to it and make them feel at ease. And then I'm going to be at this number for the next bid, or at this email address for that, and creating a sense of urgency. So these are solution closing questions that any of you could use, and they're game-changing questions that'll get you the responses you're looking for. So would you be offended if? Do you know anyone sending you the good deals? What would need to happen for you to blank? And it's funny that you're contacting me about this, and I'm going to be at this number for the next blank. Okay? Those are your solution questions. Any questions, any comments, anything in the chat box about the process and the sequence of asking questions? Clear? So hopefully you'll use that sequence. You can take all these questions and build your sequence of interviews in that, and the Safe Island technique, and using that Ford technique to go through it. That's your foundation, and that's the outset of it. Now, we've got Dan the man on this call, so I was telling him, so one thing you're going to do in the next step is to wow people and engage people and add value to people. So these are examples of pre-buyer and pre-seller packages. So I don't know if you have a pre-buyer package or a pre-seller package, but this is the way in which you add value. This is the way in which you wow people and engage people. This is how you set your value proposition apart from your competitors. These are examples of what the packages look like. You can have it in a PDF, you can have it in a hardcover booklet, or you can have it in a gift basket. It all depends on your personality and what preferences is to do. But you would all agree that one of the biggest things that we lack in that is, like Toys R Us, for example, where are they at? They're going out of business because all they did was provide a platform for you to buy a toy. They didn't provide you a platform to create an experience. So this package is what I commonly refer to as tenderizer, and something that wow factors and engages them, and you get it to them in advance before you're meeting them for a buyer interview, or getting a meeting for them for a listing interview in that. And so this is one way in which top producers wow and engage them and add value, plus set themselves apart from their competitors. Okay? All right. So quickly, what's in those packages? Your bio, your team. So your team is like Joel, your mortgage broker, your home inspector person, your insurance provider, all those things. And you have pictures of your team members and who it is, because they want to feel like you're a part of bigger something there. You have your mission statement, your core values. You have the buying process steps. You have the common buyer pitfalls. You have testimonials. You have your guarantee that they can fire you at any time, easy exit strategy, and what they'll need at the initial buyer appointment. Those are just examples of things that you'd have in your pre-buyer package, okay? And you can see how that sets you apart from your competition, and a great way to set the tone and to wow people and engage them, okay? All right, so now the next step in our process is that I'm going to explain to them that the buying process is a process of elimination. I use the analogy of a funnel, okay? So our goal is to help you find the right home at the right price and make sure you don't miss anything. And it's a funnel process. So we're going to take everything out there and throw it in this funnel and then streamline it down. So how do we do that? I'm going to get them to inquire. We're going to go online. How many of you actually sit down and log into your MLS system and you pull up what listings every agent sees with them and see the listings with them in that, and preview them and virtually tour properties before you go out? Everybody using that process of virtually touring properties before you even head out? Here's why this is important, you guys. When they see what you see and what every other licensed realtor sees, and they find something they want to buy, there's absolutely no doubt in their mind that there's nothing else out there, because they saw what you guys see. Does that make sense to you guys? So them having the exposure and having that access pass doesn't question what it is, and so your process is to take it, how you can funnel it, and how you can get it down, and how you can put it all in and then stream it down into 6 to 8 physical showings of properties. And why I say 6 to 8 is this. Everybody knows the reason behind why the phone number is only 7 digits and 7 numbers. It's a common, proven psychological thing that humans cannot process more than 7 numbers, 7 things. Guys, if you're showing them more than 7 homes at any time, you're actually incapacitating a buyer's ability to make a decision. I repeat, if you're showing them more than 7 physical properties at one time, you're actually incapacitating your buyer to be able to make a decision to buy something. That doesn't work for you, if that makes sense. So don't show them. I've got my horror story of Bob and Darlene Harris, Winnipeg, Manitoba, coming into Kelowna, 3 days, 72 homes. I repeat, yes, I'm an idiot. I let them look at 72 homes because I didn't have a process. I didn't take charge. I didn't sit them down and go through that process of elimination, okay, and setting them up. At the end of the 3 days, it was the most anticlimactic buying experience I've ever experienced. And I think they were like, who cares that we bought a home? They were exhausted and dumbfounded as well. So I've made those mistakes and have the horror stories and the battle scars to prove it as well, just like you guys as well. So that's the funnel process. At the end of the day, it's a process of elimination versus a process of selection. We're making sure you don't miss anything, right? We'll look at online and drive by. Some will go in, but you'll be in control of the decision. Our goal is to identify your top 3 favorites, and we look at those top 3 favorites and make sure you don't pay too much, right? And draw the funnel and explain the process of why you're talking about how we do the process of elimination, okay? Any questions on the process of elimination and the funnel process? No, we're good? All right, so next step, step 6, is determining someone's motivation and timing. So here you go. Here's your determining motivation and timing test. If I get a buyer that starts doing, well, the river dance, the river dance that they have. If I've got a buyer when I'm asking these questions starting to do the river dance, then I got to make a decision. No mo, no go. And I got to determine how much effort I'm going to spend based on their timing. So here's your motivation and timing test. Just for fun. Give me an idea, Joel, where you are in the process on a scale of 1 to 10. 1 being you're just starting. 10 being that if you find the right home today, we're going to buy it. Where would you see yourself? 1 to 10. Okay. What would need to happen for you, Joel, to be a 10? Okay. Drill down on each of the items and ask them and listen 3 deep and ask them. Okay. So what specifically about that is important? So what's more important to you? Tell me more about that. Take notes and listen to them and show them and determine their motivation and determine their timing. More importantly, know what their pain is and what they're avoiding, or know what their desire of pleasure is. And that is the key to knowing what somebody's motivation and timing is. Now, do I ignore somebody that's longer than 90 days? No, put them in the system, keep in touch. But here's the flow, and I don't know if you know the flow of follow-up for a buyer. If someone is a hot buyer, that's if somebody will buy now or within the next 60 days, your follow-up is every 2-3 days, you guys. Every 2-3 days, I repeat. Your motivation and timing for someone longer than 90 days is every 2-3 weeks of follow-up. Every 2-3 weeks you follow up, every 2-3 days. And it's as simple as this. It's just a text or an email saying, anything I can do for you today, ? Wait. Okay? That's as simple as that every 2-3 days, just checking in and being top of mind and doing that, okay? So if they're a hot prospect, 2-3 days. If they're a warm prospect or a cold prospect, every 2-3 weeks, okay? And determine their motivation, determine their timing. My mentor always told me, Wade, learn how to let them go on Tuesday before they run you ragged and roll you over and go buy from somebody else on Saturday. And I didn't realize how important that lesson was and that message is you guys need to learn how to get rid of them on Tuesday before they take advantage of you and buy from somebody else on Saturday. True story? Okay. Next part, pad and pen process. So I love this process. I give each of the customers and each of the buyers a pad and pen, and I ask them, okay, if it's all right with you, could you please write down all the things you love about your current home or the most recent home you've owned? Okay, and they make the list. Now, why do I give both him and her, or him and him, or her and her, their own pad of paper and their pen? The reason being is that their lists are going to be different, right? The guy's going to put down, I love my workshop, my workbench, or maybe she does that, and I love my sewing room and I love my laundry room. So their list is going to be different. But the other thing is that they're looking at each other's lists and that they're looking at it and going, really? That's what you love most about that? And it's helping them meet each other and look at each other's expectations. I take that piece of paper away from them, and then I say to them, now, make your list of what you want for the next home, okay? So I have them write down their past or most recent home, and then I make another list of the things that they want in the next home, the one that we're going to buy next. And then guess what I have when I meet with them the first time? I have a list of the items that they both put that they have to have in this next house. And then the next sheet underneath that is the things that they hope or wished or dreamed to have. And that way I'm keeping them out in the field, laser focused on what they have to have because it's on the top of their clipboard. And then the next thing is what they need or hoped or dreamed to have. Does that make sense, you guys? Can you see how effective that pad and pad exercise and having the buyer with a list of the things they have to have, and then the next page is what they hope and dream to have, and I'm keeping them out in the field laser focused on what they have to have and not what they hoped and dreamed to have, okay? Right? And that works as a great exercise. Qualification. So we've got our man Joel on the call here. Nobody better to put them through it. I'm going to ask you this. Getting your people to meet with Joel in advance, game changer, right? But your message on communicating the benefits of them meeting with Joel before they even go out there, right? So not finding what they can't have, looking and not affording to be able to have and that. But more importantly, you know that they're legit and they know that they're approved and they're pre-approved properly. And so my quick question is will you be paying cash or will you requiring getting a loan? And then do you need that loan arranged and do you have somebody and selling the benefits of meeting with Joel in advance of even going out and buying? And I hope everybody in the call totally understands the benefit of understanding how they're qualified and going out before. I always had this your worst nightmare is that your buyer goes out and they find something they can't have. You have lost a buyer forever. I hope you understand what I mean by that. If you take somebody out and they find something they can't have, you have lost them forever. I don't care how good you are. You will never sell them something because they always wanted that one that they saw that you let them see that they couldn't have, and you've killed the buyer for the rest of your career in that. And so don't do that and don't fall into that. And learn how to sell the benefits to meeting with Joel for them in advance before they go out, okay? If we find it, what will you do? So you talk about will you be writing an offer? Will you be paying cash? You talk about the cream puff house. And there's not the perfect house, but there's a house that's 85%. You talk about the rule of thumb of showing property in that. You talk about Murphy's Law. Murphy's Law is when somebody else likes it. I love this dialogue, and it's this message is being recorded, but I love this dialogue. The home that you guys are thinking about tonight could be the same home that somebody saw yesterday and thought about last night and is buying today. So that's one of my closing dialogues is I'll say to them, look at you guys, I understand that you want to think about this, but just keep in mind, somebody could have saw the same house yesterday, thought about it last night, and will buy it today while we're thinking about it overnight and losing it tomorrow. It's called Murphy's Law, okay? And at the end of the day, it's their decision and it's their property in that. And then the other one I like about it and having a sit down, and you guys can add, you always need to ask a buyer and determine, are they buying a home or are they buying a deal? Game changer question, because you need to educate. What is someone buying a home? A home is like somewhere where you're going to grow and grow old and where you're going to create memories and that. And you pay more for a home and it's totally different than you looking for a deal. A deal is a fixer-upper, or a deal is a foreclosure, or a deal is something that takes work. Deal is a Poseidon adventure in that. You need to clearly sit your buyer down and clearly understand whether they're buying a home or they're buying a deal. Everybody like that idea and like that concept is that you want to make sure that they determine whether they're buying a home or they're buying a deal, and they clearly understand the difference between buying a home and buying a deal, okay? All right? Next one, the value proposition. So I find that so many people can't explain to themselves why now, why their company, and why them, and that separates them that. So the biggest game changer for me is that you have to have a visual, and I'll share this visual tool with you about what you do for them and what's the benefit to them of what you bring to the table. So I'm going to ask you this. If I'm a buyer and I tell you that this is what I'm going to do for you, what do you think your chances of wanting to hire me are? So I'm going to tell you, I don't wait. I go out and door knock and find it for you, okay? I'll also use Canada Post unaddressed ad mail and find it for you. I'll reach out to my peers, other agents in the community and other agents in my office, and I'll reach out to everybody on my database and see if there's something they have that'll fit what you're looking for. I'll subscribe you to an auto email alert service. I'll go and search expireds. I'll go search exclusives. I'll go search by owner properties. And I'll also go through other shadow inventory. And what I mean by shadow inventory listings is other listings that are for sale but not in the market. So that's like Craigslist, Kijiji, Castanet, or other agents' listings or people in your database. I'll maintain strict confidentiality about their personal situation, marketing, or motivation, financial situation. I'll search my database of my own past clients. I'll provide them ongoing communication. I'll provide them access to the matrix system or the MLS system. I'll show them proprietary information like sale prices and how to determine what we're going to pay for it. I'll coordinate everybody that's involved in their purchase. they can hold me accountable. And I don't know if you know this, but the second page of the EBA, you guys, clearly states there are 10 things you must perform, and they're held accountable to you if they have that in writing with you, that you're held accountable to. And I don't know about you, but I want to hold my buyer agent accountable to the activities they must perform, so they're not just sitting around waiting for it. They can fire me at any time, and I'll also implement multiple offer strategies in that. Now, does this sound like I'm setting myself apart? And I'm not just telling you, I'm showing you this visual, and I'll send you this visual about what it is that I do for you if you hire me on my behalf. Does everybody like this visual and see the difference in it? How I'm showing you what I value and what I bring to the table as a buyer's agent, not just telling you, okay? And I can tell you this will set you apart from your competitors, because I don't think agents know how to communicate what they do and what they do differently. It's not that I'm honest and I'm hardworking and that I'm nice and that's great. This is what's in it for them, the buyer, and hiring me as a buyer's agent. And I believe that if they see the value in what I provide, then they'll increase my chances of wanting to commit to me and hiring me. Okay, so those are the visuals and the tools that I use about it and working through that. Okay, the next thing is explaining the benefits to them of an exclusive relationship with me. So I talk to them about the client confidentiality. It's like a doctor-patient relationship. I talk about the no communication delay on the inventory that I'm finding. So everybody explains to them that if you're relying on newspapers, internet, realtor.ca, all those sources, there's a delay there. I tell them that I'll give them the inside access. So I'm going to go find it, not wait for it, and talk to agents about sleeve and pocket listings and going through that. If you don't know what a sleeve or pocket listing is, it's somebody that knows of a client that has something that they don't want to put it on MLS. That's a sleeve or pocket listing, okay? Exclusive listings, expired listings. I talk about how they'll get auto email updates. My system is not delayed, theirs is. I'll talk to them about how I'll go find the properties. I'll talk to them how I'm a prospector and I don't sit around and take advantage of that active agent prospect. And also there's part-time agents out there versus full-time. I'll explain to them that they can fire me at any time and that they're holding me accountable, and that I'll find that property for them and I'll help them own it, and I'll facilitate and transaction and coordinate for them on their behalf. And then the last thing is that I explain to them that this commitment is no different than a seller. You guys do this at the end of every selling listing presentation. You say, if you like me, you like my marketing plan, you like the way I mark my home, I'm going to ask you to hire me. So I say at the end of this, do you like my value proposition? Do you like the way I treat and serve buyers? Do you like the benefits to me of hiring me exclusively? And just like my buyers, they feel that I'm the right person, I have the right marketing plan and the right selling plan, and I'm worth hiring for in that. And so I'm going to ask you to commit to me and doing that. And the reason why I ask for that commitment is I make it sound like it's just like any seller would do, and any buyer should do it as well. And I explain to them what I'm bringing to the table and what I offer, and not just jumping in and saying, hey, sign this form and sign this document. I'm going to be apprehensive of that, okay? And so I make it sound like it's to their benefit and how they benefit from doing that, okay? Now, there's one little trick in here, and that is this. You also have to explain to them Section 6 of this contract, where there's the fee side of it. So I explain to them, 99.99% of the time, who pays my fee? The seller, okay? But before you guys make a decision on a home, I'm going to let you know how much my fee is. That's the disclosure remuneration. And I'm going to let you know who's paying it. So you're going to know before I even write your offer in writing who's paying my fee and how much you're paying it, so that you don't have to worry about me double dipping and me getting it from my seller and me getting it from you as a buyer. That'll never happen. I won't last long in business, okay? So what are your thoughts and what are you thinking in that? And again, I have to make a judgment call. If they resist me signing this contract and hiring me, I have to make a judgment call whether I want to take them on as a client and roll that dice, okay? Versus going out there and just rolling the dice in that. I like my chances of asking people, and I get this all the time. If you take the time to do a process and go through this and do a presentation and take the time to go through this process, 9 times out of 10, I'm going to say, that was excellent. Love what we see. Absolutely, we want to hire you. And we can fire you anytime. Yep, you can. And if I don't perform these activities, it's null and void. Yep, that's right. And you're getting paid by the seller unless you tell us, yeah, that's correct. And that's when I ask for that commitment and get them to sign up and commit to that process, okay? I know all of you guys wish BCRA would legislate you and make you mandatory to do this, but I don't think that's coming. So I'm just trying to teach you how to ask for the order. So a couple bonus items before we go today. The name and rate game. When you take a buyer out, make it fun and make it exciting. So I get them to make up a name of every house, Reason why is that they'll psychologically remember more of each house, and I get them to rate it and put it at a number. Okay. And I always show the top rated 2 homes immediately right away. Okay. So I always show the top 2 right away. I increase my chances of getting somebody to write an offer by showing the top 2 rated houses for a second time right away while I'm out there by doing it and saving me time. That's working smarter, not harder. Okay. So a name game and a rate game, it's lots of fun. The other one is the Price is Right game. So I get them to go out and I show them drive up to recent sales, and I get them to guess how much the house sold for and show them pictures, but don't tell them how much for. And that'll help you get them to gauge how much things are worth and how much they have to pay for things, right? And do that. So that's a great little game by everybody clear on. You drive them up to the 3 most recent sales of what they're looking at and get them to guess how much they sold for, so they have a concept of what they're going to have to pay for when they find it, okay? I always have things pre-written. I always have my contract ready, okay? All right? And so they have the pre-written paperwork in advance, and then write the offer at the home they want to buy. And here's the benefit. When the longer they sit in the house, the better chance you're going to have of them not bailing on you and bailing out of it, okay? Right? So write the offer at the process. Plus, my memory is really good. It's really short, and I'm not going to risk missing things on the inclusions and exclusions and going room by room in that, writing the deal and writing the offer, okay? So write the offer at the property they want to buy. Make them psychologically want to not bail on it and buy in. Have it pre-written. Show the top 2 rated houses the second time right away, and drive them up to stuff that's sold, and get the Price is Right game in that and play that, and name them and rate them every time you show a house. And one little trick I got from a legend and Joan Richter, she was using the velvet hammer. Every house you sell, guys, before you leave, ask them if they like this house enough to buy it. Or ask them, do you see yourself living here? If you don't ask for the order, guys, you don't get the order, if that makes sense, okay? So ask every house before you leave in that. So before you leave today, I don't want this stuff to fall on deaf ears and to go into the archives and that. So write down the top 3 things, or just post in the chat box here, the top 3 things you learned today that you're going to implement and that you're going to execute after you get off this call. Write them out there in that. And then while I've got the floor open, I've got some time here. Any questions, any comments, anything like that? Joel, you want to reach out to the group here and just interact with everybody as well? Do we lose Joel?
Sure. Yep.
Yeah. Go for it.
No, I'm here. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I was writing. I'm not a realtor, right? Just a mortgage guy, but I was surprised the stuff that I was writing down. So
good. I love it. That sequence will be money for you, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
The question sequence.
So I love the idea about doing.
Yeah. Go for it. Share.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, the big thing I always love is the guarantees.
Yeah.
So like I do with our business, we do 4 guarantees to every client.
Yes.
And we guarantee their home inspection, that if we tell them they get financing, within 24 hours, that we'll pay their home inspection if something falls apart.
Yeah.
And we guarantee that, like, if we don't get them approved, we'll send them to the bank right after that.
Yeah.
We'll send their whole file to their current bank. So I love I'm just writing down like how we could do a written, service agreement, not just like for privacy, and that's just awesome content. So. Yeah.
Killer. Linda, thank you for sharing. So she loved the rapport side of things, not rushing it, the education side of things, and asking for the order. So those are the 3 things that she took away that she's going to implement. Anybody else want to share their 3 things that they took away from that before we go? Shout out to Vince. Hey, Vinny. How you doing, brother? Thanks for your feedback. Glad I helped out you guys. Danny, 3 things that you picked up from there, bud? Anybody else? Lost them all. Cool. So, guys, I'm going to send Joel the recording of this. I'm going to send the tools and the slide deck and that. And if that's all we've got there, Joel, thanks again for your time, man. And hopefully you guys saw huge value and got some nuggets from this. And one thing, I'm a big Gary Vaynerchuk fan, guys. Ideas are just crap.
Oh, yeah.
It's about education, or it's about implementation and execution. So, guys, I'm encouraging you guys, get there and implement and execute. Don't worry about all the ideas. It's like, do what you know that you should be doing and implement and execute it, and go out there and get after it, and learn how to lose these guys on Tuesday before they run you ragged and drive you and abuse you and lose you on Saturday. Okay, guys? Thank you so much, and thanks, Joel.
Excellent.
And I'll send this stuff out to you guys. And you guys have a great day and enjoy the rest of your week. And yeah, thanks again for the opportunity, Joel.
Yeah, thank you so much for having you. And yeah, well, I'll send the link directly from our email.
Yes.
And also the audio file if you want to share around. So hopefully that's helpful and valuable to all your businesses. And I appreciate everyone coming. So.
Yeah, thanks, you guys. All the best. Take care. Have a great day.